This is StoryScape, a timeline log time and account and a series with a focus on the quests and exploring the story of RuneScape.
Journey with me to Gillinor.
What's next is Violet is Blue. Yet another seasonal quest that got left in the game after its release during the 2018 Christmas event. Like the last quest, this is potentially in the wrong place in the timeline, but this is down to it including just one item that technically shouldn't exist. But we'll get to that. Our quest journal informs us of a portal that's opened up at the foot of White Wolf Mountain, and outside we find a little girl called Violet. Hey, you're a little young to be wandering around down here on your own, aren't you? After depicting more peak RuneScape social skills, the little girl darts into the portal and we give chase out of concern for her well-being. A snowball flies out of nowhere and knocks you over, which was of course hurled by the cheeky little girl, but there's more for us in store as we try and scale the hill towards her, only to be met by an onslaught of giant snowballs, which you can either try to dodge, or just fuck it up and take long enough that Violet gets bored apparently. After cresting the peak of the hill, we catch up with the little girl and she laughs at getting snow in StoryScape's face, but before long we're interrupted by the enormous deep roar of some far-off monster, which makes Violet realise she's supposed to be somewhere and makes the adventurer very concerned about whatever made the sound. That could be a giant monster, or a big abominable snowman, or a giant terrifying tree monster that uses vines to ensnare its prey, or big demons that look like mummies but actually have claws longer than their limbs. There could be wolves out here, or big bears. Or a cute little cabin in the middle of the woods. So the adventurer knocks on the door, or says knock outside the door. Let's try that again.
Do you want to build a snowman?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
But anyway, we're eventually let in by the two elderly yetis who live there. And though the adventurer starts out respectfully thanking them, that all goes out the window when Betty the female yeti offers him some soup. And he instantly assumes they ate the little girl and prepares to attack them when she runs out of the next room safe and sound. We learn that Violet had broken the rules and travelled further than she should have, but this was just because she wanted to see more and visit the nearby village for the festival. Violet leaves and in private, Betty jokes about cooking the adventurer, and then Trevor the husband explains how many years ago they found Violet wrapped in a blanket on their doorstep and decided to take her in. Now they're worried about her going to the annual Yeti festival because they're scared she won't be accepted by the other children, and they're worried that this time might come sooner rather than later as she keeps running off, and as she gets older, it's only getting harder to stop her. We've always wanted to take her to the festival. Would you be willing to accept my help? The question is more for you. Are you willing to help Violet have a magical adventure? Well, that sounds like a yes, so we go and tell Violet the good news. Before we leave, however, we're going to need to gather some things for her to take. And this is the part of the quest with the impossible item. Violet gives us the first letter of the item we have to bring her. There are 12 possible clues, but we only need to bring her 5 items. And it would be just my luck that I got the one item on the list which literally cannot exist for over 10 years in-game. A weapon gizmo. That's it. That's all it is. A weapon gizmo. A piece of technology developed, I think, by the dwarves. I guess it could have been the cave goblins, but were initially taught it by the dwarves, so... Now maybe I'm being petty, but if they want this quest to be here in the story, and I'll go into this a little bit after the quest, but it makes a lot of sense for this to be at this point in the story, then this item should probably be removed from the pool. I mean, yeah, it's a little thing that won't be noticed by a lot of players, especially new players experiencing the timeline for the first time, but just for consistency in the lore, little things like this do matter. And this is turning into a ramble. But anyway, after gathering all of Violet's things, we head out together towards the mountain pass that will lead us to the village. And in a small clearing of maple trees, we come to our first obstacle. A very dark path. Far too dark and scary for Violet. Thankfully, there just happens to be some fireflies in the bushes nearby that we trap in a jar that Trevor has on him for some reason. But we've got to keep him safe from Violet, who says they taste like popping candy. And we slather some maple syrup we got from the trees in the clearing along the trees on the path, and at this point, but anyway, decides it's time to evolve into their adult but not final form. Finishing off the section, we take Violet through, slowly letting some fireflies out of the jar to light the way. Eventually the path opens up to a much larger clearing, this one inhabited by a bunch of snow golems running around like headless Oh, wait, they actually don't have heads, which Violet doesn't like very much, and yeah, I think that'd unsettle me a bit too. But it's okay, because a snowball is basically a head, right? So we make some snowballs which Violet pelts at them until everyone has a head. Well, kinda. Then head into the next area as Violet tries to name all 15 golems. The journey continues ever onwards. We build some snowmen for Violet to shout at to intentionally cause small avalanches, playing a bit hard and fast with your daughter's life there, Trevor, and push her across a frozen lake in a barrel. Before finally coming to the last puzzle. At the peak of the hill before the village entrance, Violet starts getting anxious about the other Yetis not liking her, when StoryScape realises the slope is too steep to safely walk down, which instantly perks Violet up as she suggests building a sled with lots of lights and lots of sparkles, sounding like every PC gamer when building their setup. So we grab some materials from around the clearing, including chopping down the signpost into the town. A little casual vandalism never hurt anyone. Making sure to light it up per Violet's specifications. We name it Sleddy McSledface, which Violet loves because of course she does, she's 6, and ride it down into the village, triggering a cute little cutscene that has all the Yeti children chatter about how pretty Violet is. The lamps from this quest were all going to go on Herblore, but the first 2 got me to 20, which hits the soft cap, so I kept the last one in my inventory for the last 2 Pathfinder quests. Next, we have Myths of the White Lands, which was released alongside the Christmas event for 2008. With that information, I did consider calling this the end of the adventurer's first year of questing. However, just a few quests later, we do have Violet of Blue, which, if I recall correctly, is actually set during Wintumber, and its sequel, which is at a similar point in the next era, is set exactly 1 year later. So it made more sense to me to put the end of the first and second years around then. So, yeah, that was kind of wrong. I hadn't done my research properly. Violet is 6 in that quest, and 6.5 in the next quest, which takes place just before Christmas in Wintumber, not during the Yeti Festival, which I thought it did. I noticed this when the diary in A Shadow over Ashdale was dated to Banath, which is 7 months before Wintumber, which would actually make sense if we backtracked to Myths of the White Lands, said that was the end of the first year, especially when you add in the quests from the Adventurer era into those 6 months. It all kind of lines up quite well. I'm not sure if it will, but if this pattern continues throughout the next 13 years of in-game time until the 6th Age, at which point the updates mostly become chronological to the lore anyway, then it really shows the level of care the devs put into designing the timeline order. Despite the strange placement of some of the quests and the recent movement of some other quests, and it really makes... It's such a shame that that fucking gizmo is in there. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit pedantic here, but to me, either this item should be removed from the quest or it needs to be moved later on. Speaking of moving on, next we have a quest that is just plain weird. Once Upon a Slime, which was released as a sequel to the Treasure Hunter promo turned community event. I'm so glad they're done with this shit. Which was called Slimers of the Essence. A 5-day event which had the player helping a pretend chef called Peter get rid of the Slime King he'd inadvertently created when throwing out some of his failed experimental food. But of course, we never did that. The event and the quest have both been removed from the game, so Peter has to introduce himself to us all over again and explain that a while ago, the Slime King escaped and the community banded together to push him through the portal. But apparently that portal just led to some poor bastard's basement, so before long he was back, and once again, his moist matter covered Rimmington. Gross. Now Peter, being the absolute genius he is, does have a plan this time, but before he's able to tell us, the ground begins to shake and the big jiggly bastard graces us with his gelatinous presence, before Peter describes his grand plan. Queen Slime.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Another cutscene begins playing as Peter elaborates on his genius plan of slime romance, while a polar bear spies on us. More on that in like 30 episodes. I'm really sorry, Peter, but that may be the stupidest idea I've ever heard. We apologise for offending him, and as StoryScape begins to break down the issue, a large pink mass creeps across the background. What have you done? Well, I guess we're going with my plan then. Yeah, I'm not doing the accent. God give me strength. Fine, what am I doing? So to get these two, beings dating, Peter says we need to get him all gorgeous for his date, deciding that a wee top hat is the perfect fashionscape to complete his look, and sends us to Thessalia in her shop in Varrock to acquire one, revealing that his chef outfit is actually a costume that she made for him. Thessalia claims that she still has nightmares about the horrible gloops. Oh, it just reminds me of that video. I'll put it up on the screen. I can't remember what it's called.
Sloop, splat.
Thessalia claims that she still has nightmares about the horrible gloop sound that the king slime makes, and when told that there are 2 now, she instantly works out who the idiot behind it is. But as it turns out, she actually recently attempted to break a Gillenorian world record by creating the world's largest top hat. She failed and came second, but that does mean that she has a giant Slime King-sized top hat to hand. Which we return to Peter, and he points out that he did in fact say a wee top hat, and that the king would look like a buck Egypt in a giant one. Peter, sometimes you say words and I don't know what they mean. So we return to Thessalia and ask her to make the hat smaller, a request she takes great exception to given that she is an expert in making giant hats. But not to worry, because she does know someone who can help. An architect and engineer called Ava Lovelace just happens to have recently invented a shrinking machine. Despite being disappointed that the giant top hat isn't for her, Ava is thrilled for a reason to finally test out her shrinking machine. First one to test it, is this safe? I am 100% certain that this is probably very safe. Maybe. She then tells us that we'll need to calibrate it too, which basically just involves pressing random buttons on the console until you get it right. And after a couple attempts with no indication which ones I actually got right or wrong, I said fuck it and looked on the wiki. After successfully shrinking the hat, Ava asks if StoryScape would consider shrinking himself down to ride around in her pocket, and we leg it out of there before the mad scientist decides she doesn't actually need permission. Back in Rimington, we bequeath the top hat to the King Slime, triggering a cutscene where at first Peter's dumb idea seems to have worked, before the Queen Slime just turns around and fucks off. Refusing to accept that his plan was the issue, Peter insists that she must have been distracted by something nearby, and suggests we go ask her what the crack is, to which she obviously doesn't respond. But we do get a piece of her stuck in our inventory, which can be used as a compass to find the thing that's bothering her, the purple goop in Hetty's cauldron, which we slabber all over the king, triggering another cutscene. The queen is drawn back over to him, and from the perspective of Peter and the adventurer, we're told what happens, and what at first seems to be a, let's say, romantic engagement, turns into something much darker, as the queen absorbs the king, creating one gigantic mega slime, and fucks off again. Peter celebrates the supposed win and says that he doesn't think we'll ever see her again. But she did leave us some presents, a swanky new top hat for Peter, and a small pet slime for us. Okay, well that was a short, sweet, and kind of gross quest. And next we have another short and sweet, but notably less gross quest. This one, added during the Easter event of 2025, has us rescuing a duckling who was separated from her parents during a storm in the aptly named Duck Quest. This story begins with the adventurer chilling out, doing some fishing in Draenor when they find a broken nest with an egg in it floating nearby. And of course, as soon as we look down to investigate, the egg hatches, and out pops an adorable little duckling. Hello, little ducky? The duckling looks around, her eyes widening in shock. Immediately, the panicked squeaking starts. Aww. We ask if she knows where her parents are. No idea how she would. She hatched 30 seconds ago, before noticing some debris from the nest nearby, and ask her to stay put while we investigate. Which of course she completely ignores, following us like a lost little puppy, at which point we scoop her up, popping her into our pocket with her head poking out. That's fucking adorable. So from here we follow the trail of debris, taking us east through the Lumbridge swamp, then north through the city itself, past the Champions Guild, where the trail ends near a willow surrounded by ducks and a druid called Breadsticks, who may or may not have a few screws loose. We explain to him that we're helping the duckling find her family. He says that he saw a nest fall from the nearby willow and was taken away by the river before he could do anything, but maybe the tree could still be of use to us. Unfortunately though, he's tried talking to it, hugging it and meditating under it, but nothing seems to have worked. Can't imagine why. Next he gives us a recipe for a potion of duck speak that he's been unable to decipher because it's written in linear beak script, the duck language, at which point the adventurer just can't help but take the piss. My metaphysical connections are telling me that the language uses symbols. Not sure how I know that. Oh, far out, that makes way too much sense. But anyway, he gives us the indecipherable potion, which also has pictograms apparently. Go to Falador, get duck feed, fill vial with water, add duck feed to vial. If this guy thought too hard, he'd have an aneurysm. In all fairness, remembering that there were ducks in Falador Park and seeing the tree here, I thought this meant the feed would be in the park. I was wrong. It isn't. It's by a random tree on the bank of the moat around the castle, instead, for some reason. So we return to Breadsticks, drink the potion, which turns the adventurer into a duck. Yeah, that tracks. We can no longer understand Breadsticks, nor he us, and so instead we investigate the nearby hole in the roots of the willow. Inside we're met by Jemima, who welcomes us to Paddlington, but says we'll need to complete our induction to get an entry pass into the centre. It's a vital quackification to be administered by the Invigilatoad, who sends off the duckling to the duck crash. Our first trial is to eat the peas that have been scattered around the roots, and we slowly waddle our way around to each pile. I feel like these should have been grapes. Jagus likes making random references that would have been perfect here.
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle. Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle. Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle.
And our second task is to prove how zen we are, simply needing to find a comfy place to sit and relax and watch the world go by. And right at the peak of the root system, we find a cosy little spot that looks over Paddlington and all its beauty, and after a short little lecture in mindfulness from the Invigilatoad, he allows us into Paddlington. After exploring a little inside, we don't find the duckling's parents, but we do get a mouthful of sap when trying to drink from a leaf and find 2 buttons. Standing on one each triggers a cutscene of a toad shining a light into a tortoise's arsehole. Investigating the toad statue, we spit out the sap and take a ride up to the top of Paddlington on the bubbles it creates, finally returning the duckling to her parents. Okay, so that's the end of the Pathfinder era, but the video hasn't finished yet. There's still a couple more things for the adventurer to do, but before that I just wanted to say thank you. I really didn't think I'd make it this far. The last time I tried to do this with story mode a few years ago, I think I only got to Gertrude's cat, but then it wasn't going as well, because like if there weren't a good 50 or 60 of you coming back each upload, you know, watching the whole thing, liking and commenting and doing all the other good stuff, I really don't think I'd have been able to motivate myself through the last few episodes. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. Now, the next thing I needed to do was some skilling, partly because my soft cap had gone up due to entering the adventure era, and partly because I needed to get some of the skill requirements for the adventure era. I'm not going to be including much of the skill grinds in the series because I want to keep the focus on the quests, unless there are any complications that arise due to my restrictions and all the timeline stuff. So I'll probably be streaming a lot of the skill grinds. I streamed it for the first time the other day, and it went quite well, to be fair. It was mainly to practice some live commentary, but then I realised that I could make an entire video just out of the stream, and then that would be a lot of videos and not very much account progress, so I decided against it. But I did notice a couple of things that my restrictions have caused that I hadn't quite thought about before properly. Oh shit, no, I am no way going to be able to afford all of the shards for this. There's the one in Uglog or Gutenorth, one of those places that you can trade in for your charms back, but did that even get me a level? That didn't even get me a level, and that used all my spirit shards. I have not got the money for this. Not even close. I'm gonna... Yeah, I know I don't have enough, okay. You can't just let me buy what... I don't have enough for another... Alright, that's why. I bought... Oh, it did. It bought 114, okay. So I literally had enough for one inventory, which got me 1 level. Oh my god, this is going to be hell. Let's go to... I need to remember the farm and batch locations now. We'll go to the obvious one first. I haven't got the cabbage teleport yet. So we got Mauritania, can't do that one yet. Where's the others? Obviously there's this one. There's 2 here. There's 2 at each of them. I need to remember these things. Arduin. I can go to Arduin. I can't access... fuck! I can't access Manor Farm. I mean, like, it would not make sense if I was farming in their farm patches, but for some reason I wasn't allowed to farm their animals. I didn't water my potatoes. I haven't got a watering can. Oh my god, it's not even like I'm going from a main. The most recent account that I played on a lot was my group Iron Man, and that was kind of timeline locked, but I did do May. Okay then. I did use... Oh god, that's worse. Okay, so what other farming locations are actually available to me? Do I care right now? Not really. And I was able to get probably the most prestigious achievement in RuneScape. Hey! To be fair, I got Surge like 5 months ago, and I've only just done that. That's not bad. That's not terrible. What else is left in Pathfinder? Well, after seeing how the trolls still seem to be an issue, StoryScape, after upgrading their gear, made a load of air runes and headed to Berthorf to see if they could help. Where we find that taking Death Plateau most definitely did nothing because there's trolls all over the fucking place, and waves of them are still heading down through the mountain pass. So we agreed to help fight them back, battling off 20 waves of trolls of varying skill sets until we take on the troll general called Cliff. No issue whatsoever, but thanks for the herblore experience. Next we return to Lumbridge to see if Explorer Jack's frozen shit has defrosted yet. It has, and he laughs it off, saying that he managed to continue the scam, selling the feces to a traveller. And after splitting the gold with us, he also suggests some touristy type things that we can do in and around Lumbridge, and the promise of a reward is all that StoryScape needs. Some of them we've already completed, and I won't go into them too much, but during this time StoryScape did explore the highest point of Lumbridge and raise the flag. They met with some famous Lumbridge citizens, including the Duke, the Doomsayer and the Sage, checked in with Father Eric to browse his gravestone collection, played the nearby organ, but when all that was done, we returned to Jack for my currently best in slot ring, and for some more free herblore experience. And with that, StoryScape went off to prepare for the next bout of questing. And I'll see you all again in the adventure era. And I'll see you guys in the saga video, and a video on playing, and a video I've got planned after that about playing RuneScape on controller.